So obviously I do the post-game videos after every game and just kind of break down, share my thoughts on that game specifically, kind of like mini podcasts, almost 10 or 15 minutes or so, just breaking down that game. But I haven't really been able to, since the start of the season, just give some more general takes. In this video, I want to get into specific individual player performances, just share some of my general thoughts. We're a little bit over a quarter of the way in. I've watched obviously all the games. I've also been to pretty much every practice, so I've seen these guys play just about as much as anyone. So I just want to share my thoughts on every player so far, based off maybe preseason expectations for some, and just how they're performing, what my thoughts, what I've seen from them this season, break out a few stats as well, and just kind of chat, little podcast style video sharing my thoughts. Maybe do another one of these just on the general team perspective, maybe talk a little bit about playoff chances or something like that, but not going to be in this video. I just want to focus on individual players in this one. First guy I'm going to start with, just get him out of the way first, Connor Bedard. What a season it's been for him. 38 points in 26 games so far, but I legitimately think he's been a top 5 player in the NHL. I don't think you can name 5 players this year that have been better than Bedard. He's taken so many strides in his game in every single area. Obviously the points have increased, even though maybe you could argue the line mates haven't gotten a ton better around, even though I think they have. I think he's found some consistency with some guys, but just his general game, he's playing on another level. 17 goals already. His career high is, I think, 23 from last season. He's gonna smash that maybe in the next couple weeks. But it's been just such a huge season. He's taking strides in every single department. The skating's obviously that's like the main thing that's been in most noticeable thing. I think that's improved from Bedard. That was, if you look back at some offseason videos I made or some of my offseason posts, really from anybody, I think everyone could agree that the weakest part of Bedard's game was his speed. He didn't have the extra gear to get up to speed, and he was getting caught by some back checkers. He didn't have an extra gear to get to on the rush. And that was clearly the weakest part of his offensive game for sure, and it was kind of holding him back from being a big-time producer. Well, he obviously addressed that in the offseason. I found it funny because I listened to a Kyle Davidson kind of TV appearance the other day. He was talking about Bedard and what he did in the offseason, and he didn't even really know exactly what Bedard did this offseason. No one really does. No one really knows what exactly it was that he did to improve his speed, but obviously it's gotten so much better. He's 91st percentile with 5 22 plus mile an hour speed bursts. Now he hasn't had one in the past month or so, but still 5 compared to the average for forwards is 1.5 at this point in the season. He's also, probably more importantly, 97th percentile with 82 20 to 22 mile an hour speed burst. The average is 27.5. And then he's also 98th percentile with an 18 to 20 mile an hour speed burst with 264 at this point in the season versus the average forward has 119.5. His max skating speed is 22.36 miles an hour, which he actually set on the first game of the season, and he hasn't topped that so far. We'll see if he gets there. Like I said, he hasn't had a 22 plus mile an hour burst this month or in the past month, but he's reached upwards of 22 miles an hour, which his top speed ranks 70th percentile. Just for reference, Bedard's speed metrics last year, he was still 97th percentile last year in 18 to 20 mile an hour bursts with 730, but he's clearly improved the top end speed. He only had 70 20 to 22 mile an hour bursts and no 22 plus mile an hour bursts. So only 70 bursts of over 20 miles an hour. His top speed was only 21.4 miles per hour. So obvious improvements there. But again, that's not the only area he's improved. It's obviously probably been the one that's helped him the most get to another level scoring wise. But he also adjusted from a 70 flex stick to a 75 flex stick, which makes the stick a little bit stiffer. Who knows? Maybe that's helped him on his shot, but I think where it's helped him a lot is in the face-off circle. He's up to 49% at this point through the season in the dot, which is a significant improvement. I believe he was about 38% last season, even though the last few months of the season he was about 46% from January on, I believe. So he was getting better through the course of last season, and that's carried into this season where he's been very impressive at the dot again. If you could be 49% as a top line center, definitely will take that, and who knows, he can definitely still improve that as he grows. He's still only 20 years old, which is the craziest part. He's on pace for a 120-point season. He's shooting more this season, even though he started off slow, but to this point, on average, he's averaging 3.5 shots per game on 6.5 attempts through this season, compared to last season where he's averaging only 2.5 or 2.4 to be specific shots per game on 4.9 attempts per game. So she's shooting more, which is a great sign. He has such a good shot, even though he calls himself a playmaker first, and I think he is a playmaker first. He still has such a good shot. It would be a shame if he didn't use it. So he's obviously shooting more. That's benefiting him in the goal scoring department. It also benefits him in the playmaking department. Teams know that he has the lethal shot, and the fact that he's using it more may open up more. It does open up more for his teammates and for him to make plays that aren't snipes on net. Again, it's just ridiculous. He has 38 points in 26 games. He's just on historic paces for a 20-year-old scorer. It's just crazy. I remember making my preseason prediction for him. I felt pretty confident he was going to take another step, but nowhere near did I predict it to be this good. I said, which I'm a little embarrassed to say, I think I predicted about 84 or 85 points. I had him a little bit, just a tad over point per game, I believe, and I said that in, I think, my season preview video, and man, that is looking like it's going to age like milk, but I'm totally fine with that. If he can put up triple-digit points, that's just incredible stuff for a 20-year-old first-line forward. He's also, though, taking strides defensively. That's been another area of his game that's improved so much. We're seeing it kind of night in and night out. It's just subtle plays. He's winning puck battles. He's, getting sticks on shot. His stick checking is so good, especially on the forecheck or trying to clog stuff up in the neutral zone. That's one of his, obviously he has all these offensive talents that are on display, but his stick checking and just the way he can use his stick to deflect passes and get in passing lanes, it's so good. I think that's one of his, honestly, signature skills. We saw that on the highlight reel Calgary goal where he had just an amazing stick check to knock the puck free, and then he went in on the breakaway and scored. I think that goal really highlighted just those strides Bedard has been taking on both ends of the ice, even though it was on the same end of the ice, but you get the point, just with his defensive game as well as his offensive game. Jeff Blashill's been trusting him to be on the ice at the end of the game. He's taken a few critical faceoffs, even though the Blackhawks as a team haven't been great holding leads. It's still super impressive to see Bedard getting shifts at the very end of the game. Sometimes it's the last shift of the game. Just shows the trust Blashill has in him. And I can't remember off the top of my head if, Bedard may still have been out there last year at the end of the game, but you feel so much more confident in him this year to shut it down and be good in his own zone. So he's really turning into a totally capable two-way forward and obviously one of the best offensive threats in the game. Again, I think he's been a top 5 player in the NHL this year. Really hoping he makes that Team Canada Olympic team. He totally deserves it, even though, there's a lot of discussion if he will end up on that team. I totally think he should be, but it's been such a great season for Bedard. He's a +10 plus-minus, even though, plus-minus it's not that important of a stat. It's still kind of impressive to see considering he's been well in the minuses his first 2 years. So I think that, kind of covers the basis. That you could get so in depth on Bedard's game and just all the little things he does on each and every shift. Yes, he's so skilled that it's not just the highlight reel plays that you realize he's so good at and he has so much skill. It's just stuff that he does on every shift. Small stuff to get pucks, move pucks, steal pucks in the defensive zone. It's just in the neutral zone. There's just so many things he does well, but that's kind of the basis on Connor Bedard, the rundown. I think I'm going to go line by line and we'll just go over to Ryan Greene next, who's kind of been a mainstay now on that top line. I think he's been the most impressive Blackhawks player this year, at least to me, and I know that might be crazy to say just considering how good Bedard's been, how good Knight's been, some other players that have stepped up big time, but I think just in terms of surprise, Ryan Greene is been a quality first-line player for the Blackhawks, and we look back to the beginning of the season, a few days before the Blackhawks kicked things off in Florida. Greene was on the bus to Rockford, and now we look, 2 months later, he's on the first line next to Connor Bedard and Andrei Burakovsky, and he's not just surviving there, he's thriving on that top line. I've been so impressed with him, and you can go back to the offseason. I made a few videos previewing this season. I talked about Greene specifically as a player I was excited to see and that I wanted to see in the NHL, because his last 2 games that he played, or his first 2 games that he played, was the last 2 games of the Blackhawks season. They were really impressive, at least to me. I noticed his skating and just his two-way game was very impressive in 2 of the Blackhawks' best games of the season. So I was hoping he did make the NHL team out of camp in the offseason, but then we got to actual camp, to rookie camp he participated in, and then Blackhawks training camp, and he was just kind of quiet. He was fine, but he didn't really stand out, or I didn't think he took maybe full advantage of the opportunity. He had a fine camp, but he wasn't standing out like maybe Oliver Moore did, at least to me. And I was there all of rookie camp, all of training camp in person. But Greene was fine, but I didn't think he had done maybe like anything crazy to make the team. At that point, I was kind of feeling like he would start the season in Rockford and get called up late in the year. That was kind of where I was at, and I was like, that's still good. I still think he's going to be a very good player. But man, the injury to Landon Slager, Greene got called up from Rockford before playing a game in the American, and he comes up and he starts in the fourth line role, plays 8 minutes a night, and it was quality minutes. So he was giving the Blackhawks quality minutes. He still wasn't necessarily standing out, but it's going to be pretty tough to stand out when you're playing 8 minutes per game. But he played very well enough to the point where the Blackhawks were comfortable holding him on the roster. And sure, he got kind of lucky with some injuries early in the season for the Blackhawks, but he found his way on the roster, and he took advantage of the opportunity in terms of he was providing the Blackhawks with quality bottom 6 minutes. But then, man, they bump him up to the top line early November, looking to spark that line due to some injuries. That was actually probably more so why he got moved up, because I think Bertuzzi, Burakovsky was down at one point. Few guys had gone down throughout the season, and so they call up Greene at the top line, and wow, he has taken full advantage of that opportunity. He's been unbelievable. I think it's really raised his confidence after he got the first few games on that top line, playing heavy minutes versus with Connor Bedard, with Andre Burakovsky. I think that elevated his confidence to the point where we're really seeing the player that Ryan Greene can be. And man, he's been so impressive. I think the goal last night, the highlight reel goal from Bedard, was really highlighted what Greene can do, because in that D zone before the goal, to set up the goal, Greene flies in from the wall to the middle of the ice to get a foot on the shot from the Vegas defender. The puck deflects to the wall. Greene races there, and he blocks another shot with his stick. So it wasn't technically a blocked shot, but he did block the shot. Puck lies there. He wins the board battle versus the Vegas player that took the shot, and he chips it past Mitch Marner up to Burakovsky, who then moves it up to Bedard, who does the rest. And that just really showcases why that line's worked well together, because Ryan Greene's been so good in both ends of the ice. That really showcased his defensive abilities, and just watching him more and more get these quality scoring chances seemingly every game, even though he hasn't been the best at finishing on the fact that he's getting all these chances shows how good of a player he can be and how well he's complementing that top line. And man, you just look back to the fact that he was on the bus to Rockford to start the season, and now he's been a super quality player. The skill looks like he possesses way more skill than I thought he did heading into the season. I mentioned I wanted to see Greene in the NHL, but there was no way I could have predicted that he was going to be this good. He has some sneaky skill to him. He's in the right spots. He knows how. He's just such a smart player. That's why he's getting all these scoring chances. It's not just luck that the puck's finding him. He's getting in the right spots. He's playing off Bedard and Burakovsky super well. And as he finishes more and more and keeps up just the defensive play, the neutral zone play, really on all areas of the ice, he's going to be such a good player for the Blackhawks long term. And if you asked me at the beginning of the season, where do I see him long term, I would have kind of limited him to the third line center role, kind of the Jason Dickinson shutdown role, because we kind of knew he was a very good defensive player and had a little bit of two-way game. That's what we heard coming out of Boston University. But man, he has been way more than that, at least this season. And now, honestly, I think the sky's the limit for where he could end up in the Blackhawks long term. But as of right now, he's been a great piece on the top line. He's played really well with Connor Bedard. They actually have kind of some similar skills in terms of their shots are both very good. They're both very smart players. And Greene has some sneaky skill. Obviously, it's not to the level of Connor Bedard, but Greene skates well. He plays well on both ends of the ice, and that's worked, and why that top line has worked. Even if the counting stats of 4 goals, 5 assists in 26 games aren't great, he is a +7, and he's just continues to play very, very quality hockey. And I'll wrap up the first line by talking about the third member on the wing, Andre Burakovsky, who's been a consistent mainstay with Connor Bedard throughout this season. He's been the consistent Connor Bedard line mate that we've been waiting for. Heading into this season, I didn't know where he was going to slide in. I think in my early season mock lines before training camp, I had him somewhere in the second line. It was kind of a toss-up for who was going to be Connor Bedard's running mate. Teuvo Teravainen was one of the names that was being up there, and that was who I kind of thought Bedard would start with, but it ended up being Burakovsky, and man, he has been super, super good. Remember, a lot of Blackhawks fans wanted him gone and were very unhappy with his play early in the preseason. I saw so many comments about how bad Burakovsky looked, but he's been nothing but good for the Blackhawks. 18 points in 21 games. Hasn't played in all the Blackhawks games this season, but he's been very good when he does play. We haven't seen maybe the top end speed, but Connor Bedard still talked about how Burakovsky has the ability to play at different paces. He can play really fast. He can play slow, kind of whatever the game flow requires, whatever that line needs, he can play. He complements Bedard very well with his puck skills, with his shot. He's been very, very good for the Blackhawks. Just an unreal pickup, basically for free in the offseason, and he's solidified his spot on the top line next to Connor Bedard, and that's super valuable. Absolutely love what Burakovsky's done for Bedard and for the Blackhawks this season. Connor Bedard isn't, top 2 or 3 in the scoring race if he doesn't have line mates that are helping him produce, even though people will point out, he doesn't have Kirill Kaprizov on his wing, but he has guys that are now helping him, and that wasn't necessarily the case in years past. He never found consistent chemistry with anybody, but it seems like he's got that now with Burakovsky and Greene. Next guy I want to talk about is Teuvo Teravainen. I just love Teravainen. He's such I call him the savvy vet just because he's pretty slow. He's not like necessarily the fanciest player, but he's so smart. He knows how to play the game. He can play really kind of up and down the line. Yeah, you're not going to put him in a fourth line role, but he can play on that shutdown line we've seen a few times with Dickinson and Mikheyev, but he can also play up the lineup with the Blackhawks' best skill guys this season. He's been used mostly as a winger to Frank Nazar, and Frank's talked about how easy it is to play with Teuvo because he can complement their game so well. He's just such a smart player. He knows, how he's very good, a very, very good passer. He usually passes too much, but he's such a smart player. He can play with fast guys, even as kind of a slower guy. And I just love how smart he is, how comfortable he is, and how he makes it easier for his line mates. Now, I do wish he would shoot more. That's like all season, and even in the last season, there's just times where he has open shots and he passes them up to pass. I wish he would shoot more, but either way, he's still been a very good player, again, for the Blackhawks this season. He only has 29 shots on goal in 26 games, so just a touch over 1 shot per game. Would like that number to be up a little more because he gets a few chances at least per game. He's still converted for 17 points in 26 games this season. Did get moved off the top power play unit. It just wasn't quite clicking with Connor Bedard like he was last year, but I think at this moment he actually might be back on there in that bumper role. It's kind of fluctuated throughout this season, but he never found really like great chemistry with Bedard outside of some moments on the power play last year, and it just feels like this year he's been a better piece next to Frank Nazar, and he's kind of let Burakovsky take that top role with Bedard, and I think it's worked out pretty well. Again, I just really like Teravainen. Probably not like a super long-term piece as we get more and more guys ready to be inserted into the lineup. I'm thinking of like a Frondell, a Lardis. Who knows about Roman Kanserov? That's kind of a wild card, but he's been lighting it up in the KHL. We'll see if he ends up getting a spot, but there's going to be spots that need to open up. I just feel like they're obviously going to probably want to keep Burakovsky more. Maybe, I don't know about Bertuzzi or some other guys. I'm not going to get too much into it right now, but I don't know if he's like a super long-term piece, but for right now, Teuvo's very good, a very good complementary piece that can play anywhere really in the middle six. Talk about Tyler Bertuzzi next here. And this has been a huge season for Bertuzzi, and I do have to kind of expose myself heading into this season. You can watch it in one of my off-season videos. I was like doing my mock lines and just like, I don't really know where Tyler Bertuzzi fits on this team. And in my defense, last year was a very bad year for Tyler Bertuzzi, and it was a bad impression for me, at least. Obviously, I just never really watched like a bunch of games he's bounced around a few teams. Obviously, he wasn't on the Blackhawks until last year, so never really consistently watched him. And it was kind of tough to watch at times. He was really bad at times, just putting it bluntly. He did have a hot streak last December, but outside of that, he was pretty rough. He still is pretty slow, but he wasn't really doing the things that we're seeing this year. He wasn't as just into it, it felt like. And I don't think that's to a fault of his own. Like, the team didn't have great vibes last year, but we've seen this year that it's completely shifted around. I think Jeff Blashill, who's coached Bertuzzi, knows how to get him going. He's really, really helped Tyler get to the level he knows that he can play at and that we're seeing this year. He's at 23 points in 23 games so far, 14 goals through this point of the season, and he's just hit a whole nother level that we did not see last year. So heading into the season, I was like, I don't know where he fits in. Well, he definitely has a spot solidified in the top 6 right now. We've seen how good his signature net front role has been on the power play with Connor Bedard. That's worked out really, really well. But he's also playing good hockey at 5-on-5. He's slotted in mostly next to Frank Nazar and Teuvo Teravainen this year, and he's playing really good off those players. It's kind of a little weird. I wouldn't necessarily expect it to work, especially last night. He's playing with Nazar and Moore, 2 of the fastest players in the Blackhawks lineup, and Bertuzzi's probably the slowest one, but he still is keeping up and playing good hockey next to him. So it's been impressive. I've definitely been wrong about Bertuzzi, at least looking at my offseason comments, but he's reached a whole new level I didn't even really know he had. Jeff Blashill definitely deserves a lot of credit for that, but absolutely love what I've been seeing from Bertuzzi, and he's been a big piece for the Blackhawks offensively this year. Frank Nazar's interesting. He has 18 points in 24 games. Very good numbers. Again, this is his first full NHL season, which is kind of hard to believe just because we've seen glimpses of him. We saw a lot of him last year, and he played in a few games, one game, I think, or 3 or something like that the year before. But this is his first full NHL season, and he's still playing well. It started off hot. He was great in the preseason, and he carried that into the start of the regular season, but unfortunately got that injury in Calgary that seems to have hampered his play a little bit. It's a hip pointer injury that's been sore and nagging him for the past few weeks. It does seem like he's about to break through it. It's these last 2 games I think have been the best ones we've seen over the past month or so, and he said himself that he is starting to feel better, which is a great sign. But yeah, he hasn't scored a goal since October, and it just hasn't been the best hockey from Frank Nazar. He hasn't been at the level that we saw early in the season and that we know he can get to, and we saw him get to early in the season. So hopefully as he recovers, he'll get back to being that electric, speedy goal scorer that we know he can be. That's really why I don't have a ton to say about Nazar right now. Now, I think my preseason prediction for him was in the 60-point range or like low 60s, and it seems like that's pretty much his pace right now, even though he started the season on like a point per game pace. So I was kind of sweating that, even though I would love for him to exceed my prediction. But it seems kind of like that might be where he would finish this season. At least that's on the pace he's on, which would be a really good season, first full season in the NHL for him. But hopefully he can get back to playing at that high level of hockey we know he can be at. We saw some glimpses in the Vegas game last night. Gonna go over Jason Dickinson next. And similar to Bertuzzi, I was not super high on Dickinson heading into this season, but it feels like he's just gotten to a whole nother level this season. Now, we saw, I think it was his first season with the Blackhawks 2 years ago. He was a very good goal scoring threat. He had 20 plus goals that season. Last season, the offense wasn't quite there, and I just didn't really see the defensive play that we're seeing this season. And I don't think it's all his fault. He dealt with some injuries last year, still has dealt with some injuries this year, but also there was no consistent lines last year. He didn't have a consistent shutdown role like he does this year. The Blackhawks and Sorensen didn't really use that kind of shutdown style that the Blackhawks have with that third line this season. So he didn't quite have the role. The team vibes just overall, I didn't feel like anyone was playing their best hockey last year, and I think Dickinson was included for that. So I was very concerned this offseason, really. Is he just kind of a guy that's just skating out there? But this season, he's been way better than that. He's been a very, very capable shutdown center, playing tough matchups, tough minutes in the D zone, especially winning faceoffs at a good level this year. And he's been providing quality hockey for the Blackhawks in that third line shutdown role. So I've been very, very impressed with Dickinson this season, and I'm willing to admit I was definitely wrong heading into this season. He's been more than just a guy and has been very effective. Now, again, looking a little bit long term, I don't know if he's a Blackhawk after this season. This is an expiring contract, but I just don't know if he's going to be back. The Blackhawks need to open up some spots for Anton Friendel, Nick Lardis, and maybe who else? Who knows who else emerges onto the scene? Roman Kantsarov potentially. And, someone has to leave the lineup, and it feels like Dickinson's probably the one they let walk. Ilya Mikheyev, you have to resign. I'll talk about him next, but you have to resign him. You have them Bertuzzi, Burakovsky, Teravainen. They still have length on their contracts left, so you kind of need to get rid of somebody, and it's probably going to be Dickinson. That being said, I think he sticks with the Blackhawks this whole season. He's been very, very effective, and they've been playing quality hockey, so I don't see why they would move him. Yeah, he's been very good this season, been very impressed with him, and I have also been about Ilya Mikheyev. However, heading into this season, I was very high on Ilya Mikheyev, and I've been proven right, even though it was kind of evident last season with how good he played then that he was going to continue that success, and he's only elevated his game, especially defensively. He's been probably the best defensive forward in the sport, definitely the best bottom six player by far. If I had a vote, I would definitely be voting him for Selke at this point in the season. I know we're only 26 games in, but he's been that effective, that good on the penalty kill and that third line shutdown role. He's been everything and more. I still believe you can slide him up the lineup, and we've seen the Blackhawks and Jeff Blashill do that when they're in a pinch. So he can play up and down the lineup. He can play that defensive shutdown role. I think he has enough skill to his game where he can play in the top six if you need him to. So I just absolutely love Ilya Mikheyev as a player, such a skilled defensive talent that also I think has some sneaky offensive upside. So absolutely love what we've seen from Ilya Mikheyev. He's an expiring contract that I will be furious if the Blackhawks do not re-sign him, and I expect Kyle Davidson to do just that and bring Mikheyev back because he's such an effective player. He's a player that you win with in the playoffs, and I think the Blackhawks see that just like I do. So I've been very, very impressed with him. He has 7 points in 24 games, but has just been so good on both ends of the ice. Ryan Donato's been a little bit interesting. If you had to point to one of a player that's been a little bit disappointing this season, because a lot of the Blackhawks have been exceeding expectations. Donato, I don't quite think so. He hasn't been terrible by any means. I mean, he has 8 goals in 26 games this season, 13 points. But obviously, no one expected him really to continue the 60-point pace that he was at last season, and that he had 30 goals, 30 plus assists. But he hasn't been quite as good as I was hoping this season. That's been evident as he's been dropped from the lineup. He started the season on the top line, and he's fallen all the way down to the fourth line as recently as last night. So it just hasn't been the best season for Donato. I still think he can be an effective bottom six player, and he's still a plus player in your bottom six as opposed to a minus player in your top six. So still happy to have Donato, but I just don't think it's been the best season for him up to this point. But again, he hasn't been terrible by any means, but if you have him in a fourth line role, he'll give you good minutes. So it hasn't been too bad for Donato, but just based off some expectations for him, was hoping we'd see maybe a little more. Talk about Colton Dach next. And Dach's very, very interesting. He's played up on the first line this season and been a lot on the fourth line as well. But I really like Colton Dach. And there's mixed opinions out there. I see a lot of people that agree with me and see the size and skill combo and are very intrigued by it. But I also have talked to people that aren't as big of a fan as Dach, kind of just see him as just maybe an extra kind of forward, maybe like an AHL, NHL kind of guy, not someone that's going to be a consistent mainstay in the lineup when the Blackhawks are a playoff team. But I think he will be. I think he can be an effective bottom sixer, mostly a fourth line guy like he is right now. And I think he can be very good in that role. He has enough enough skill where we've seen the Blackhawks put him up on the first line. He has a few highlight reel goals this season, or maybe not highlight reel, but very nice goals this season. We know he has skill to his game, but he's also a big physical body. He's one of the NHL leaders in hits, by far leads the Blackhawks in that category. And the Blackhawks don't have a ton of big bodies that are laying hits. Now, a lot of guys in their lineup play bigger than what they're listed at. Connor Bedard, probably the first guy you think of when I say that. But Colton Dach, it's nice to have someone that's big and actually plays physical, can lay hits. And I like that out of a fourth line guy, especially when he has some skill to his game. We've seen him be bumped up to the second unit power play as well, which is a role I absolutely love him in that net front power play role. We've seen it a few times this season where he's can get the puck to the net. That's something that I just love in net front guys, when they actually are willing to take the puck to the net, and Dach does that very, very well. So hopefully he can stick in that role. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Dach. He has 6 points, 26 games this season, playing mostly on the fourth line, very physical player. I've been very, very happy with what we've seen from him in his first full season in the NHL. Talk about Oliver Moore next, as we pretty much get down to the last few forwards here. It's kind of crazy. 14 games already that Oliver Moore's played in the Blackhawks lineup. Feels just like a week ago he got called up from AHL Rockford, but 14 games this season. He's at a half point per game pace, which is very impressive. 3 goals, 4 assists in those games, and he's found himself up and down the lineup this season. Hasn't really found a consistent spot yet, but it's been hard to with all the injuries that the Blackhawks have dealt with in the forward group and the fluctuating lines outside of that top line for the most part. But as recently as last night, we saw him in a second line role next to Frank Nazar, and I thought last night was his best game since being recalled from Rockford. He was showcasing his skill and speed, and he even said after the game last night that he felt it was the most confident he's been in an NHL game this season. So I thought that was on display, especially early on. Him and Nazar were playing with their speed very, very well. He had a snipe on Carter Hart as well, and I've been impressed with him. I really loved his training camp. I thought he had a great camp. Wasn't too surprised to see him start the year in Rockford, but he definitely got called up earlier than expected due to some injuries. But he's done enough to stick in the lineup, and I think it's nice having another skill forward on this team and someone that can play up and down the lineup. He can play, a third, fourth line role if you need him to, but he also has skill to his game that you can put him in the top 6. So I really like Oliver Moore. I think he's been very, very good this season in the games that we've seen him, and I think he's just going to continue getting better as he gets more NHL games under his belt. Nick Foligno's been hurt over the past few weeks. Unfortunately, had that hand injury. He's more that veteran presence. You don't worry too much about his on-ice play. He's a good veteran that can play on your fourth line. He can be physical. He can fight. He can also has some skill to his game, at least, where he's a capable player, unlike some of the fourth liners we've seen on the Blackhawks in the past, but unfortunately out with an injury right now. And then Sam Lafferty's only drawn into 10 games this season. Kind of feel a little bit bad for him coming in. You kind of knew you'd be a 12th or 13th forward, but not on a team that would run 11-7 every game. So it's been tough for him to get in the lineup. I think he's been fine when he has been, he's only playing maybe 7 or 8 minutes per game when he does draw in. He had that highlight reel goal, I believe, versus New Jersey, which was a fun highlight for him, but he's been fine as a fourth liner. Landon Slaggert, a little bit disappointed with him, actually very, very disappointed with him. Unfortunately, it feels like he's kind of played his way out of the Blackhawks. Not long-term plans. I don't know if he was ever in their long-term plans, but definitely their current plans, as he started the year as the third member of the shutdown line with Dickinson and Mikheyev, but unfortunately due to some injuries, kind of got knocked out of that spot. And then when he has been in the lineup, he really hasn't been too great. He's just kind of a guy, at least that's what I feel, and I don't know if he's going to be able to be better than that. He's kind of just hanging on by a thread right now on the Blackhawks main roster. Honestly, I expect him to be sent down potentially sooner rather than later, and I just don't think he's going to be a consistent member of the Blackhawks lineup, unfortunately. But we'll get in now to the defenders. It's been a pretty consistent 7 defenseman group. Luckily, there haven't been really any injuries this season, knock on wood, for that. We'll start top guy, Alex Vlasic, I guess. I think he's been just consistent and steady defensively. Vlasic's a guy you don't really notice when he's out there a ton, just because he plays very simple style of hockey, and he's very effective at what he does. He's very good defensively, so you don't notice any defensive mistakes because he doesn't make many, and he's also simple when it comes to he can go get to the neutral zone, he'll get the puck, and he does that very, very well. And I know it's kind of silly to say, oh, he dumps the puck in great, but I mean, it is an important part of hockey, and if you can get the puck to the red line and get the puck in deep, that's an important part of the game. Vlasic does that very effectively, obviously very effective in his own end. He plays, usually the Blackhawks, the most minutes on the Blackhawks each and every night. So trusted defender, absolutely love Alex Vlasic's game, and he's just been steady for the Blackhawks, playing in a top pair role. Someone that's burst onto the scene this year is Louis Crevier. He's having himself a heck of a season. He was, I believe, a healthy scratch in the opening, or maybe he drew into the lineup at an opening night. But either way, he wasn't a super consistent player for the first, or I guess he wasn't planning to get a consistent role, or maybe through preseason training camp. He kind of made the team to be the seventh defender before the Blackhawks decided they were going to run 11-7 every game. And since they decided to do that, he's ran with the opportunity. He's up to the first pair now, playing quality defensive zone minutes. He's been a super effective defensive defenseman, and he also has 10 points in 25 games. He's really solidified himself into the lineup as of right now, and I think in the long term as well. Heading into this season, I didn't think Crevier would have a consistent role on the team over the next few years and moving forward as a long-term piece. But I think right now he definitely has played his way into that conversation. I think he is going to be someone that sticks on this roster even when they're a playoff team, and hopefully the next few years. So Crevier's been super, super impressive. He's having himself a great season. And I'd say that Artem Levchinov is as well. It was a rough start for him. The first few games were really, really bad, but ever since the Blackhawks transitioned to that 11-7, it's benefited him so much. He's playing the best hockey of his career right now over the past 10 to 15 games or so. He's up to 13 points in 25 games. He's jumped up to the Blackhawks' first power play unit, and I really, really like Artie. He is such a powerful and strong player, and that's on display every night. I think he's going to be a very, very capable NHL defender just because of his raw strength and raw instincts as well. I think that they are very good, even though they need to be developed a little bit more. And we've seen what he can do in the neutral zone, breaking pucks out, and offensively as well. He's a very talented offensive player, walks the blue line very well. We've seen that a few times. He gets shots in the net too, which I think is important, especially on the power play. So I really, really like Artie, and he's playing the best hockey of his career over this past month or so. So very excited for him moving forward. It was tough to start the season. It still is a little bit tough for him just with the language barrier. He's not fully comfortable, I don't think, in the NHL yet, but you can tell he's getting more and more comfortable. Wyatt Kaiser has a lot to do with that, playing on his defensive pair. And we'll get right into Kaiser. He started the season really, really well. He's the Blackhawks' best defenseman for sure over the first week or two of the season. He's cooled off a little bit, and not necessarily in the points category. He doesn't get credited with a ton of points, even though I think he's a good two-way defender, but hasn't been quite as sharp defensively. We've seen some turnovers. We've seen some lapses in his game at some points, but I still think it's part of the growing pains. This is his first full NHL season, which is kind of hard to believe, and he's playing really, really well. Overall, he's usually averaging probably the second most ice time in terms of Blackhawks defenders, and he's been leaned on a lot. Helped develop Levchinov, helping him get more comfortable. He plays quality minutes on the penalty kill, and he's just been super, super good. And man, I absolutely love watching him play. I think he might be, outside of Connor Bedard, my favorite Blackhawk to watch. Just how he uses his skating. His skating is so crazy. It is not many players can move like Wyatt Kaiser, and he knows that, and he uses that to his advantage. That's why he can be so effective even as a smaller defender. So I really, really like Kaiser. I think he's been very important in Levchinov's development, and he's been very steady himself. Matt Grzelcyk came in on a PTO at training camp, and he's stuck with the team and played in, I believe, every game this season. It's been very, very impressive. Yeah, every single game he's been a part of. He's a +9 this season, and he's been very, very impressive. I didn't think much of it heading into the season. I didn't even really think he was going to get an actual contract after training camp, but he certainly did, and he's taken advantage of it. He's been just a nice veteran presence, and I'm sure he's helping some of the Blackhawks young defensemen. He allows them to run 11-7 every night, which obviously has been very, very beneficial. It's been just a quality NHL defenseman. I don't know how he plays a very kind of boring style of game, but he's a nice veteran, consistent piece. So I don't have too much to talk about him, but man, he's been. I'm very happy that the Blackhawks did end up signing him because he's been very beneficial to the team. Connor Murphy's been steady defensively, plays important penalty kill minutes. He's a good defensive defenseman, even though his ice time has dropped off this season. But still, an important piece for the Blackhawks. He's a very important veteran presence, and he does play those quality minutes on the penalty kill, which is important when you have your two young defensemen, Rinzel and Levchinov, that are more offensive focused. To have someone that can play tough minutes on the penalty kill or in the D zone, especially steady minutes like Connor Murphy, it's very important, provides that physical presence. I really like what Connor Murphy does in his role in the D core. Now we'll see what his future holds after this season, because he is on an expiring contract, and the Blackhawks have some guys in the system that are kind of knocking on the door, like Kevin Korchinski, like a Nolan Allen, maybe even Ethan Del Mastro makes a comeback to the NHL. But for right now, I really like what Murphy's done. And last guy we'll talk about is Sam Rinzel. Now, it hasn't been the best season for Rinzel. He's been a little bit disappointing just in terms of expectations. I mentioned it. A lot of people were on it. A potential dark horse Calder candidate. I thought he would finish at least in the top 3, but hasn't quite been that this season. Hasn't been, he hasn't quite picked up where he left off in his 9-game sample size from last season. But I think that he still showed the flashes that he can be a top 4 defender for the Blackhawks. He's very, very smart. He's got very, very good skating skill, and just needs some development. Needs more reps. Needs more games, and that's how it is for young defensemen. You can't expect him to play 26 minutes a night on that top pair as in his first full season in the NHL. So not too concerned for Rinzel long term, but hasn't been the best start for him. But it feels like he's gaining his confidence more and more as we go, and I'm sure he can get back to that level that we saw at the end of last season. Just needs to get that confidence up a little bit. We'll talk about the goaltenders, then we'll wrap it up. Arvid will be the first one we talk about. Now, it's been a rough 2 starts for Arvid, which kind of left a sour taste in everybody's mouth, but I'm a huge Arvid fan, and I'm going to remind everybody he was very good, or at least very solid to start the season. Had the big game versus Detroit as well, where he stopped 45 of 46, I believe, in that one. So I think he's a very capable NHL backup, and I've been satisfied with his play outside of these last 2 games. Haven't been the best for him, but he's going to have a start this weekend. We'll see how he can bounce back. Laurent Brossoit knocking on the door. He's in an AHL conditioning stint right now, but I don't think he will overtake Arvid in the NHL roster. I don't know if he will ever play a game for the Blackhawks. And then last goaltender we'll talk about, last player of this video, Spencer Knight. Wow. He has been so good. I was hoping he could hold maybe a 905 in his first year as a full-time starter, but right now he's sitting at a 917, and honestly, that could probably be a lot better. It's been a few unlucky goals. I think back to last night where 2 of the Vegas Golden Knights' 3 goals went off Blackhawks defenders' skates. So he could have even better numbers than what he does. He plays on a team that allows a lot of shots, and he has been so good. Should be in the Vezina conversation, and he's been just unreal. I don't even know how much more to say. He's on the top of the leaderboard, near the top of the leaderboard in goals saved above expected and save percentage and a lot of advanced goaltender stats. And he's just been probably the most. Him or Connor Bedard have been the most important pieces to the Blackhawks' early success, even though it hasn't quite been as good as they probably could be. Just the fact that the Blackhawks are in that playoff race right now, largely due to Spencer Knight's play. He has been amazing. Alrighty, there is a little bit of a quarter season check-in on the players' individual player performance so far this season. Maybe get a little more of a general team video coming out in a few days. We'll see. And we definitely will, though, continue with the post-game recaps after every single game. But we definitely wanted to make a little bit more general, be able to talk about every single player, because I can't really do that after the post-game videos. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on anything you disagreed with that I said, or any additional thoughts that you have to add on any player. Let me know in the comments. And yeah, Blackhawks in LA for back-to-back games, or not back-to-back nights, but back-to-back games in LA. So that's what's on tap.